Welcome to Skill Check, the pre-show bit. What this is, it's for two of us recording podcasts about all things gaming and well-being and everything, I guess, in between. Because it's COVID and pandemics and things like that. We are recording it over the internet and we're using Facebook and things like that, so we don't have to be in the same room as each other. And yeah, Zach, please say something, because I feel like I'm starting to ramble a little bit and it's not going well. And please interrupt me.
No, I mean that's a pretty good roundup. Yeah, this was the easiest way of us recording audio between each other was just to do some kind of video call, and we thought, oh well, if we're doing the video call anyway, why don't we try and share that with everyone to give them a peek behind the curtain at how a podcast is put together, and so this is that thing. So yeah, this is obviously a podcast. So the primary reason to do this is to get the audio, which Andy then goes away, takes the audio off this video, and makes it into an amazing podcast, which you can find on all good podcast providers. Which is the main outcome of this is not the live stream itself. It is the podcast that we produce, where most of our listeners are obviously in. Listen there to the podcast version. However, we like to, put it online as well and appear live. It gives us a chance to kind of experiment with kind of live streaming as a thing and kind of gets some nice byproducts that we get content for our YouTube channel and our Twitch channel and our Facebook groups. It's just another way that people, if they want to, can drop in and say hi, and another way for us to be around so that if people, for whatever reason, need to contact us or need a place to just kind of appear and be like, oh, this thing, then they can do that as well. So it's just about kind of building up a portfolio of different ways that we can support young people, and this seemed like a no-brainer because we have a lot of young people that are interested in gaming. So this was just an idea where we thought we'd try it, and yeah, we're still going, and I believe we're on episode like 31, 32, 31, 32.
No.
I think so.
I'm gonna have to check now. Is it?
Yeah, I think we're in the 30s now. We'll soon be to 50, and then we'll just have to retire.
Oh, don't say that. I'll miss you.
You've got to know when the going's good and when to get out. That's the thing. To be fair, we'd probably replace it with something else, somewhere else. We wouldn't not do podcasts anymore. We'd probably just do something different for a bit.
Yeah, we're too
We like talking,
emotionally invested.
basically.
Yeah,
And once we get started, that's it. Although sometimes we ramble and we
talking or emotionally invested.
yeah, we sometimes arrive at these things in neck deep in other things going on, and this is kind of a nice break, and it breaks things up, and let's just do something a little bit more creative and a little bit different. With that in mind,
Episode 29. Episode
29 today.
Like,
I got a really I saw a post from our very just amazing and capable tenancy worker at the YMCA today called Andy Mackay, and he posted about an art group. So this is me shouting out his thing about there's an art thing. So for those of you that are tuning in that are residents, that are the only people that will be hearing this bit, because that's the only way you can, get in touch with Andy if you like art, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah, there might be an art thing coming up.
There might be an art thing.
YMCA community.
Yeah. So if that
it might be opened up to other people as well.
Yeah. But for those of you that are YMCA related, of that persuasion, and you like art, and you haven't seen the post and never read Andy's posts in general, here's a live shout out. Yeah, to do that, and this also qualifies. I imagine. I don't know how it would, but if you like online stuff, I imagine there's a space for that. Like I won't go so far as to say that we're making art now, okay? Because we're not good at it. So I feel like you've got to be half good.
You have to be good at art in order to make art.
Oh, you see, that's a really interesting... Because I guess most people, some famous artists at least, were considered not very good when they were doing their art, but then have since become famous for their art, which may not be very good.
Indeed.
But I guess it's
So I think
subjective.
when we talk about art in this context, it's more about the thoughts and processes and the creative feelings that you go through in order to make something. So I've found out a bit more about this since I put the post. And yeah, that's what that's who we're particularly looking for. So whilst it won't necessarily be online in nature, even though it could be,
Sure, but the content you bring could be digital in nature.
Yes. So what you think about whilst producing digital content could very easily that same mindset could easily be brought to this project in this group.
Anyway, if you are involved in the YMCA through kind of living resident, and Andy's known to you, then get in touch if you're interested in art. That's what I would say to you. And for everyone else who isn't, that also likes art, keep your ear to the ground in case it gets opened up for anyone else to come along. Who knows? Tentatively, just put it out there. Art's really cool. Talk to Andy about it.
Indeed. Shall we? I feel like we've gone off on a tangent. A little, but it's okay. It happens.
You asked me to say anything, so I mean, you know.
What we should say is if anyone has anything they want to say, any questions, any comments, feel free to make them anyway. We'll come back to it and we'll have a chat after we've finished the recording bits.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about what we're actually doing today. We're talking about kind of news and things like that, So this is very much for if you are here for a easily digestible kind of chunk of information about gaming news, about what's new, what's happening. This is the podcast for you today.
Indeed.
Now we've done that, shall I press the record button?
I think maybe it's that time.
Hello, welcome to Skill Check, the gaming wellbeing podcast from YMCA Exeter. Indeed, it's episode 29, I believe it is, hosted by myself as Andy, not Zach, and Zach. Oh no, my days!
I'm Andy. Guys, it's one of those days. We all have them, and this happens to be one of them.
29? I think we said it was 29.
Yeah, it is episode 29. Yeah.
Oh, no, hold on a second. We did an episode 0.
I guess technically then it is episode 30.
This is the 30th time we've done this. And I like to think I've marked the occasion with the worst intro ever.
Well done. And I think if anything, that's appropriate. Because I feel like we're at a place now where we have less and less technical issues. So then both our subconsciouses have to balance that out with other complicated issues, like not being able to put a sentence together or talking about something completely unrelated. So we balanced it out. So our brains have realised that we have less technical problems than we used to have, which used to be the thing that would always go wrong. However, now that it doesn't do that, where our brains are subconsciously overcompensating because they know it can't be too good, so they're now sabotaging ourselves through speech and not knowing what to say and those kinds of things. Not that we ever did, just that, you know.
It's the not merits. What's the word I'm looking for? It's the dangers. It's the interesting side effects of recording a podcast as well. It's not as live, is it? It's basically recorded live. Yeah.
And we don't over-edit it. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that because we have to record it the way we do one big chunk of audio because it's the easiest way when it's attached to a video is to know when it starts and finishes. And so we really only get one take
and that's it. And well, yeah, that's it. I mean, I think I've only really edited this twice.
Yeah.
On one of those occasions, we went off on such a random ramble of weirdness, and it was just horrible, Zach. So I just went, you know what?
See you later.
We were a bit quiet here. We're a bit quiet there. This bit in between those two bits can go away. And that had no bearing at all whatsoever.
So you know, that's just the reality. And the reality is that today, this week, we were a bit short on ideas for doing kind of overly creative things with the topic and what we're going to talk about. So we've fallen back on that trusted age-old formula that today we will be looking at gaming-related news stories in the last kind of couple of weeks. And we're just going to chat about them and see what we think about them and hopefully see what you think about them. Obviously not live, but...
I like to think there's a merit to this, though, Zach. I like to think there is a place for... that people can come along to, can listen, can get up to date on gaming news and information, and get on with it.
Every few episodes, we do an episode like this.
Yes. Where should we start?
Let's start at the top of your list, because that's the order I open things in.
Excellent. Is this the rumour, or is this the... I've got a new list now. Oh, the Epic Games.
Epic Games. Let's start there. This was really interesting. I find this very interesting. The lengths to which companies will go to do certain things a certain way. So, because I can see it and Andy can see it, but you lovely listeners that are listening to our wonderful podcast can't, I will read the title of the article. So, Epic will lose over $300 million on Epic Game Store exclusives, and they're absolutely fine with it. That's the title of the article. And in a nutshell, it's that basically they've set up their games launcher and to offer 3 games out as a way of publicising what they're doing, and they don't care that they're losing money through the platform, through giving away 3 games. Because potentially, so what happens there is they will buy a game in terms of like publishing and like putting it in their store, and then they will give it away for free. So they've paid the development company a sum of money to be able to give their game away for free, and so the kind of the game devs don't lose out, but Epic do because they're then giving it away for free, and they don't mind that because they want people to use the Epic Game Store, and that generates income through things like when you go on there, you'll see that Fortnite's there, you might download it and play it, spend a bit of money on V-Bucks or whatever, and then move on. Now, if everyone that's a gamer in the world did that, and they'd be rolling in it, and it turns out a lot of people do that, and they are rolling in it. So to us, 300 million sounds ridiculous. However, I would love to see up-to-date numbers on how much money Fortnite makes every day.
Yeah, and I guess it's the whole... Well, I guess 2 points really, isn't it? You know, when we talk about losing money, it's not like if we lost money, right? If we lost money, it would be like, oh, where did that money go? It's I didn't spend that money wisely. That's gone now. This is money that they could have earned, but they purposely chose not to earn that money because in the long run, they get people hooked in and spending, I guess, arguably more money in different ways.
Yeah, and that's not to mention that kind of the Epic Games launcher, which is losing all this money because it's given lots of games away free to try and get you to use it. It's kind of a saturated market anyway, in that everyone's trying to do that now. So there are lots of games launchers out there, and equally the ones that are good at it, Steam, for instance, have been doing it for a very, very long time. And so, as with anything, if people are used to using a certain platform, especially gamers seem to be very habitual in nature, they're going to keep using Steam. They're going to want to use Steam. All their games are there. They don't want to have to open 50 games launchers from 50 different gaming platforms to play their games. They want everything on Steam, to the point where I know for a fact that gamers out there that are PC gamers will wait for something to be available on Steam before they play it. And if it's not available on Steam, they're not playing it. So this is a way Epic Games has decided to invest in their own games launcher, and this is a way to kind of incentivize it by offering free games. That's obviously come at a cost. However, like Andy said, 300 million to us sounds like an astronomical amount of money to lose on something. However, the amount of money they make, this is a really small drop in the ocean for them as a company in general. And they've probably worked out that it's worth, at least now, it's worth it to try and get more traffic through their game launcher.
Indeed.
I just thought it was. I see numbers like that, I'm continually staggered and taken back by how much money is in gaming now.
Well, it's a different world, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone beyond football money. That's all my mind is always like. Football's obviously known for like crazy amounts of money get transferred in transfers, and like players are worth stupid amounts of money. They get stupid amounts of wages. I feel like once something goes beyond that, it's gone beyond crazy. It's into like, I don't even know what my brain really thinks about the amounts of money that are involved in gaming now as an industry. The amount of money that games make. There was more stats and figures came out recently about the mobile like apps, that how much that generates over kind of like PC gaming and console gaming, and I think console gaming up to this point has earned around $36 billion up to this point in the year. Mobile gaming has earned 79 billion. So it is basically laughing at console and PC gaming. This is
crazy amount.
Yeah, it's if you make an app, I mean, this is the kind of the other side of gaming is that people feel like now gaming like companies that own kind of the oversight of kind of gaming. So not the kind of game devs, but the more the publishers and the people at the top, like the business people at the top of gaming, are more interested in hearing about really great ideas for mobile games, because if it's a good game or you can manage to get people to buy into it, there's so many more mobile phones on the planet now, and so the kind of, if you nail it and you get the formula right, one game will literally change everything for a company. There's that much money, like it's staggering. So, lesson number one for today is 300 million. Epic Games, they don't really care.
Not a lot of money. They're okay with quote unquote losing it.
Yeah.
I guess can we jump onto the bit about education?
We can.
Because I kind of feel like we kind of started to touch on it. You know, when we're talking about the amount of money that is involved with video games and video game playing, and I guess particularly over the last year. And as a side note, one could argue that there's more people playing video games over the last 12 months because of obvious reasons known as COVID-19. But there's a press release I heard about earlier on today that talked about people's saving habits and how some people have been able to be in a position where they're able to save more than they normally would have done, or at all, over the last 12 months. And I think the figure was 75% of people who've started to save over that time want to keep the same habit going. So therefore, I would suggest that just because it might be like a pandemic thing, or started during COVID-19, or started during 2020, that does not mean that these things will go away. Which, now I've got off my soapbox. Saw an interesting article on the Evening Standard. Not a website I generally go to. I don't know what led me here. But it seems that more than half of children think gaming should be included in the school curriculum and would like to see extracurricular esports competitions hosted by their school or college. A survey of 13 to 18-year-olds carried out by gaming accessories firm. So, all right, they've got a vested interest here. And a majority of young people believe gaming is a path to a future career. For example, as a professional gamer. Which, when we talk about the amount of money involved, why not?
Yeah, it's big business now, and it would be, I think, at this point, foolish of schools to not engage with it, just because I think lots of young people have aspirations now of converting something that was in the past just a hobby into something that is potentially a career, which they will go on to do for the rest of their lives. And if we don't provide a safe, welcoming environment for children to experience it, then they will go elsewhere to do that, and we can't. Online is a scary place, and it isn't really, as much as the competitions and the organisations involved will have kind of rules and regulations attached. Unfortunately, like the public part of it, like the I'm at home and I'm gaming at home on my own part of it, isn't regulated. Apart from self-regulated by yourself, obviously. And so, do we want our young people piling into online chats and online communities that aren't regulated to get what they need to feel like they can kind of flourish in that setting, or would we like it to be regulated by schools and give them a safe place to engage with that hobby and interest? Now, this is not me saying.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It's about options. It's about having the choice, and also having a positive voice in something is always really, really important. I have nothing against I'm a gamer, so of course I will pop into like a LFG that's full of people I've never met before and trying to complete kind of multiplayer online activities, and you're rolling the dice as to who you'll get in your group, whether they're helpful or friendly or whether they're not. And I don't have a problem with that. And if you don't want to be a part of that side of gaming, you don't have to be. But that's a conversation we should be having as adults that are gamers. We should be having that conversation with younger people that want to get into gaming and helping them to understand the implications of it. Because quite often as well, that comes with kind of esports, is that a lot of those people will stream or make YouTube content outside of kind of their esports competitions as a way of generating more stable income attached to kind of their esports, because they need to practice, right? And why not stream that while you're doing it? Like the amount of hours they put into some of this stuff to be as good as they are is mind-boggling. There's houses now that esports teams will buy houses and put all their teams in houses together, and they'll live together and kind of work together and like game together and like.
We got Rocket League. Yeah. Live on BBC One or whatever it was, sorry, whatever mainstream channel it was on.
Yeah.
I guess where my head's going to is if it's the sort of thing where we wouldn't be surprised if an Olympic team did something like that.
Which they do, obviously. If there's Olympics going on, the athletes live in Athletes Village and they live together in the same houses and accommodation.
Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised to hear that people involved in video gaming is involved in this. One quote from this article I saw and I really wanted to share was, children understand how vast and exciting the gaming industry is. Are children engaged with drama and music at school? Why not video gaming?
Yeah, and I think that's a perfectly legitimate question for children to ask. Like, why aren't we? What, especially if we're thinking extracurricular as well. So, like, this isn't added on to it. I don't see why schools aren't looking to see if organisations out there would like to come into their schools and provide such a service for them. Hint, hint. And why organizations like our and why organizations like ourselves aren't kind of putting things together to speak into this space, because I think me and Andy would both, coming from youth advocacy, we would much rather be in the schools doing it in a positive, friendly, engaging way than having to deal with and hear stories of how it's damaged and had negative effects on young people that we then end up kind of helping them with, because there was no early intervention in making it a positive thing in someone's life. We spend our days helping young people to rebuild and put back together things because things have gone wrong. So why would we not be better at being preventative? And if this is a way to do that by engaging young people in a positive way about something they're passionate about earlier on, then I'm all for it. Like, I'd much rather stop, like, you know, as much as, you know, it's our jobs to kind of be with young people and help them through whatever it is, whatever issues they're going through. I'm all for kind of prevention being better than the cure, even though we work in the cure side.
Every time, I'd much rather work and do something ridiculously boring somewhere because there isn't enough young people out there. There isn't enough cause for what it is that we do.
Yeah, I would 100%. I would happily be out of work if it meant that young people didn't need the service that we provide every day.
Yes. Anyway. Yeah. Maybe one last word is, please, you know, if you are in a position of responsibility in a young person's life, in a child's life, and that young person happens to be playing computer games a lot of the time, please keep listening to this podcast. We love you, and we get that this isn't something that you may not necessarily know and understand, and therefore it might be a bit weird to you. So please keep listening to our podcast, and hopefully, you know, we'll dispel some of the worries. Hopefully we can dispel some of the myths, dispel some of the things that may concern you, and hopefully inform you as well.
I mean, hopefully one day we'll have information for you guys on groups and activities, workshops around gaming and digital content for your young people and children to come to. Like, that's our goal, is that actually we know we're being a little bit kind of hyperbolic with some of this stuff. We know that there's a need, and we know that there's a want for this stuff, and we would want nothing more than to provide that. And so we are trying to negotiate that and to see how that would work out in reality. Just that COVID came at a really good time, because now we're thinking about it more than we were before, but bad time because we can't do anything about any of the things we've thought about because it's COVID times. So we're in a catch-22, is that we've realised that there is a need for positive role models in this space for young people. We are passionate about it and want to do something about it. Unfortunately, we're still in a pandemic and can't really do much aside from things like this. So
we have gone so far.
Yeah, I know, we have. This will be that bit you cut out later. Although I think it's good, so I don't know. Maybe we'll keep it in. Anyway.
To be blunt with you, we've been talking far too much in order to find a nice, easy way to cut it out, even if I wanted to.
Great. Well, that means that moving on to the next thing, E3. Okay?
Talk to me about E3, please.
E3 has been, and may not be for much longer, is the big yearly gaming expo. It's kind of where all the latest and greatest game developers take their game to show off to the gaming industry, whether that's publishers or media, to say, here's my game, please someone publish it, or here's my game, please write really cool stories about it, or here's my game, I just need people to look at it and to want to play it. And it used to be kind of exclusively for kind of like, it used to be an in-person event where only media and game companies were allowed. So it used to be very exclusive. And so the part that the public were able to engage with was like online videos. Like they'd release they'd do big showcases that highlighted all the best things in gaming. Yeah, absolutely. And over the last few years before the pandemic, they opened it to the public. So it became like a show floor where you could go and be part of it. And then when the pandemic happened, they moved it online. And now they're saying that at least for this year, they're going to run it online again. And so there's been a feeling in the gaming world that it has kind of stopped being what it was and how it celebrated gaming. And now it's turned into something very, very different, to the point where Sony don't really come anymore, and they do their own thing near the time and may or may not do. And I think the benefits of big gaming companies being there and doing a showcase has decreased over time, especially recently, and especially in light of the fact that people realize that they can do it by themselves online, and they'll still get the numbers of people watching it, because of things like online streaming and online videos has kind of exploded recently over the last kind of 3, 4, 5 years. And so there isn't a need for a big in-person event anymore, because you can reach far more people with a really good online presentation than you ever could through.
Is this almost like the decentralization of gaming information?
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it, because it was kind of centered around kind of conventions. And so the biggest of the gaming conventions was E3, but then there was lots of like kind of smaller kind of Comic-Con level kind of things that would move around America. And there was one I think there was one in Australia called PAXes. PAXes were like smaller kind of gaming conventions, and they would move around America. And I think there was one in Australia, and there might have been one in London as well. And it moved around, and I think there was one maybe in Germany. And they used to move around. I think Gamescom is in Germany, so it's just like a smaller gaming. So it was very kind of convention heavy, and if you had a game, you would go to every single one to publicize it, because it was the best way of getting it in people's faces before releasing it, right? If you needed kind of people to help you out with the financial side of it, or a publisher to help publish a game, this is what you do. But I think things are changing, and I think it's a very bittersweet moment, because E3 used to be huge. I used to love like what's going to come out. I can't wait for watching the presentations. Like, it's going to be amazing. To now it's like, I wonder if all the companies are going to go, and if they don't go, I wonder when they're going to release their content. Nintendo do a kind of a little thing every few months now, so they don't do a huge, big, here's everything all at once. They kind of space it out over the year. Xbox have been kind of pressing the pedal to the floor in terms of like their social media is just through Game Pass, because there's always a Game Pass announcement. Like, they've decided that that's the best way to kind of push things, is through their social media accounts. And so it's become less and less about this big kind of showcase event in the summer, to the point where now, like, some of the games, it's underwhelming sometimes. Like, you'll watch it and you go, yeah, none of those games really grabbed me. And then a few months later, you'll hear this big new announcement. You're like, well, why didn't you save that for E3? Or why didn't you wait? Or like, it's just become less of a thing. And part of me is sad, because I used to really look forward to that week of like just gaming announcements and get excited for it. And it used to be like really like highly produced and like really, really good content, because it used to be the only way that people were going to get out there and get their trailers seen, right?
It was the big thing.
Yeah.
I'm not imagining it, am I? E3 has been around for decades.
Yeah, it's a very, very kind of I don't know if this article mentions when it first started, but yeah, it's 1995 was when it started, so it's been around for a long time now. Yeah, I just think this is quite sad. I was feeling very kind of. Part of me likes that now we get more regular gaming announcements, and they're given to us in many different ways. But part of me also likes waiting for like this big event every year. And I just all the kind of, I guess that's the thing, like the pandemic has forced companies to think of different ways to communicate information to us, and it's expensive to go to E3. It's not expensive to put a video on YouTube.
Wait, is it different, or is it just taking advantage of what's already there and just pivoting a little?
Yeah, I think smaller companies, especially like I was listening to a different podcast about gaming. Not to, I won't mention it by name because obviously this is ours, and we don't want to publicize someone else's podcast.
Yeah, don't
But
get anyone else.
I was listening to another podcast. They were talking about this very same thing, and they were like, it cost an arm and a leg for a small video game company to get a booth at E3, and the costs haven't changed when they moved online. So
Oh wow.
it's as expensive to get your game to be in a trailer or to be advertised as part of an online E3 than it was in person. And so I think a lot of people in the video gaming industry that are smaller studios that are trying to get their video games out there, there are better avenues to do that than E3 now, and more cost-effective ways to do that. And so E3 is kind of doesn't really know. I think the guys over there that run it don't really know what it is that they're trying to do. And whilst they figure it out, there are better ways for small companies and other companies that can't foot the cost of how much it is to attend E3 to do somewhere else, to the point where, whether it's through something like going to Xbox and saying, will you put our game out on Game Pass, and like, can we make a deal around it, and then going that route, which a lot of small games do now. It's like, we'll forego kind of, there's a risk there because obviously you're taking a set amount of money from Microsoft to be on Game Pass, and it may have been that your game might have been massive and made astronomically more money. But companies that want their game to get out there and to make money will take a deal from Microsoft to be on Game Pass over kind of the risk of like not knowing, and maybe then paying loads of money to go to E3 in the hopes that you get noticed. So it's just one of those things. I thought it was interesting that kind of E3 is the flagship kind of gaming expo, and it doesn't really know what to do when it can't have an in-person event. And now a lot of kind of
It's almost reassuring, though, isn't it? You've got an organisation, you've got an event like E3, who, let's face it, the people behind E3, they know what they're doing. They know how to make money. They know how to run a massive, massive event. But then someone comes along, and even they don't know what to do.
yeah, and
It
it
assures me on the days when it all goes wrong.
it had been happening. Yeah, it had been a slow decline, but the pandemic definitely pushed it over the edge. There'd already been kind of splinter things and break-offs. Like I said, Sony hadn't attended as a thing for a little bit before this as well, and so there was already rumblings that the gaming landscape at least was changing in terms of how we get information about games. And I think, yeah, this is just another kind of move that kind of hasn't quite worked out for them, when I feel like they could have made it into something amazing. The idea that they're so keen to get back to a physical event that they don't really know what to do about their online stuff. And that the idea that they're still charging companies the same as like a physical space. I don't know how, like, I get they got to make money. It's a massive event. Events have to make money to be able to be an event, but the cost of putting an online event on is so much smaller. So I don't know. I find that a bit kind of, I get why people are kind of looking for other ways to do things now.
I think the people who've really worked well over the last 12 months have been people who've taken what they would have done in person, gone online and scrapped a load of the in-person stuff and thought, all right, we're not got things in person anymore. What are we going to do different?
Yeah.
As opposed to trying as opposed to trying to copy the in-person stuff online.
Yeah, and I think then it shows, because I think a lot of these places in America especially said they were doing an in-person event only to reverse, like said, oh, they cancelled last year's because obviously it was kind of mid-pandemic, like when it's been at its worst, and then said, oh, we'll be back in 2021, and then they've said, and we're going to do an in-person event in 2021, and then realised actually the pandemic's not going anywhere soon, and then had to reverse that decision as well. And I think that's quite telling of the kind of people's ignorance to what's going on around them in terms of the pandemic, but also that it shows that like they never bought into this idea that now was a really good time to try things differently. They were just really, really keen to rush it back to how it was before. And maybe they should have just stepped back and said, actually, how can we put on a really great thing online for people and invest in that, rather than just trying to rush back to put on a physical in-person event at the danger of the people that would have attended those things. Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, this is a slight tangent. said, "Oh yeah, we'll definitely do an in-person event this year," only to then days later have to reverse their decision and say, "Actually, probably do it online," because people will come and people will put themselves in danger to attend things like this, and so it's organizations' responsibility to say, actually, we're not probably going to do that because that's ridiculous in light of like still the numbers that come out of America every day about how bad the pandemic is still over there compared to the UK where we are. The idea that a company would think, oh yeah, we'll just do an in-person event and we'll sell tickets for it is ridiculous.
Zach, I feel we need to move on.
Probably.
Before we lose all our listeners and viewers, and because there's two more things I'd like to flag up really quickly. But I don't know what to go with first. Do you go with the rumor or the comments from a Nintendo president?
I mean, I don't mind.
You know what? Let's go with the Nintendo president, who has been. He gets interviewed about lots of stuff, and obviously, recently he has explained. Well, he's been talking about Animal Crossing, and how it's been the smashest of smash hits. Starting to challenge Mario Kart 8 for Switch's biggest selling title. He's talked about Animal Crossing helping people to stay at home. And I'm just going to read his quote here, which is, "It's true that our recent growth has stemmed from the need for people to stay at home. Even though Japan's state of emergency is over, people are spending more time at home than before. As games with long lifespans with Animal Crossing become more accepted, we believe this will have a significant impact on future development. We want to provide games that can allow communication between friends and families." Now, NintendoLife.com, who I've grabbed this article off, have gone on to basically daydream a little. Suggest things like maybe, the next Zelda Breath of the Wild game, could that have an optional online co-op as a result? Are we going to see more games where may not necessarily be the sole point of the game, but there may be an option to work with someone else on the game, online, not in person, but together at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to look far to look at the kind of the Pokemon games that are coming out in the next year-ish. There's a remaster of Pearl and Diamond, and there's also the online one, the online Pokemon game. Pokemon's never been online before, but they're doing it. They're taking that step and making it more online experience, a more open world online kind of thing. Because I think there's definitely, if done right, and this has been the kind of the bone of contention with a game like Destiny and Destiny 2, where they've always maintained that they want to give you reasons to play every day. There's a benefit for them to have gamers going to their game every single day. And so their tension is between making content good and kind of worth playing, but also what that looks like when you're trying to deliver one-off really cool experiences and also a reason for someone to come back and load the game up every single day. And so what takes priority? Like in game development, they're two very different things. Like having repeatable activities you can do every day that are engaging and fun and you want to do, versus one big offset piece, raids or kind of dungeons or kind of story events, which take more time to develop. So that's why they're more infrequent, but they won't. So then because they're more infrequent, it can't be the thing that brings people back every day. But there is definitely value in having an element in your game that does bring people back every day, above and beyond kind of the hanging out with your mates. The game developers want their game to be the game that you're playing every day. And I guess a lot of that is the value is kind of seen in the fact that if they have some kind of monetization in the background, is that if you're hanging out there every single day, sometimes you'll buy stuff. Like if you go to a coffee shop every day and you only buy one cup of coffee, some days you'll buy a muffin as well.
Yeah.
So that it's the same thing in gaming. If you play the game every single day and you bought the game once and there is microtransactions in the background, some days you'll just play the game, and some days you'll maybe spend £5 on buying that skin that you've wanted for a while. Fortnite nails that. That's just everything that they do.
I was waiting.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I can see why the Nintendo president, he's called Bowser, right? I'm not making that up now. It was Reggie, and Reggie was cool, but now he's called Bowser, right? His last name's Bowser.
I'm terrible.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure the head of Nintendo America is called something Bowser. In some strange turn of like reality. I'm sure it is. I'll get his full name up here. US Nintendo Director.
It's the Japanese guy.
Yeah, and the American guy's last name, I'm sure, is Bowser, which I think is yes. I know, but my brain immediately went to his name's Doug Bowser, okay, and he's the American version of the he's the American head of Nintendo, basically. And he's called Doug Bowser, and I think that's amazing. I just want to shout that out as like the biggest irony ever is that he's called Bowser, right? And obviously Bowser's a huge character in Mario. And we may mention Bowser in a minute in the pre-show about, or the post-show or whatever it is. I know that you wrote something down about Bowser, but I think this is a great link here. Is like Doug Bowser. What a great name for someone that works at Nintendo, especially as high up as he is.
One last thing, and it might appeal to you as someone who has a Switch, and your love of Game Pass is legendary.
It is.
So apparently,
are they doing Game Pass? Are they doing a Game Pass?
Wait for it. The head of Xbox has appeared in a Microsoft stream.
Yep.
And in that stream, he has a shelf.
He has a shelf
behind him. Like, you know.
Yeah,
behind
like you
me,
do.
You can either see Doctor Who CDs, or you can see. I dread to think what's in that box behind me. But in the past, he's used his shelf to kind of tease future.
He does.
Xbox.
He had an Xbox Series X on there for ages, and no one noticed.
And other people have done similar. In a recent one, he has had a Nintendo Switch on his shelf.
No way, it's a coincidence.
There's the head of Xbox having a Switch on the shelf that he knows people will talk about.
It could be a great debate, though. It could just be like, I'm sucking you in, there's nothing happening. He could just really like Nintendo Switch, which is fine.
It could be nothing.
Oh, it's going to be something, though, isn't it? How would that work? How would Game Pass work on Nintendo Switch? Yeah, but
Cloud gaming.
Not all the games available on Game Pass would be available on Game Pass Nintendo, though. Like, it'd have to be a tailored. Oh, but if I already pay for it, would I? If I already pay for Game Pass Ultimate, would I then get it on Nintendo as well? Would it be an app that I download and just sign into?
I would suggest so.
That would be amazing.
It would be based.
Why would you not have Game Pass then? Even you would have to get Game Pass.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it'd be like Stadia, the cloud gaming.
Yeah, they'd stream the big AAA games, and then the games that you can download and handle on the Switch. It could.
It would be massive.
It'd be huge.
True.
It'd be huge.
It'd be huge.
I mean, Nintendo, that would sell systems. That's a system seller. We in those of you that don't know what that means is that sometimes people will ask, oh, is it worth buying a PlayStation 5 or is it worth buying an Xbox? And then people will say, well, it's worth it for this thing that you can only get in that place. This is the kind of thing that people will buy Switches for.
It's a bit like how people buy laptops to use word processing and things like that, or to browse the internet. Or how back in the day people would buy the Game Boy to play Tetris.
Yeah. It's something that will sell the it's a software thing that will sell hardware, essentially, is what we're saying here. And people will buy Nintendo Switches to access Game Pass. if in a kind of handheld capacity. Because at the moment I can do cloud gaming through. In fact, it makes sense now to have the Xbox Game Pass app launch on Nintendo because I can launch it on my tablet now, but don't because I'm like, why would I want to do that? It's weird, it's cumbersome. I've got to get a controller and attach it through Bluetooth. On the Nintendo Switch, it makes 100% sense. It's already there. Oh, I did not think about the implications of this. That would be huge.
So
how much money will Nintendo have paid Xbox to get a bit of that? Oh,
we've massively ran on today.
we have.
If you're here with us still,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've talked gaming in schools. We've talked E3. We've talked Microsoft Switch rumors. We've talked how lots of money isn't really that much money, but Epic want your eyeballs. Is that a good way to?
Sure.
They just want you looking at the app launches on the PC. Yes. Zach, help me out here.
Guys, this has been yet another episode of Skill Check Podcast from YMCA Exeter. I've been Zach, he's been Andy, and it's been a pleasure as always. You can find Skill Check on every good podcast provider. Search Skill Check and you'll find us. If you'd like to that sounds like, a bit of a stress, then just go to our website, ymcaexeter.org.uk, and we're right there on the homepage, and you can follow that link and it'll take you straight to our Anchor page where you can listen to us right there. It's just a few clicks away. And if you want to get in contact with us and share your thoughts, your questions, or your comments about the podcast with us, then you can do that by emailing us a response at ymcaexeter.org.uk, and we will get those messages, and we'll read them and kind of look at them and take that information in. And we'd love to hear from you guys about kind of all the things you have to say about the podcast and those kinds of things. We'd love to hear from you. This has been the Skill Check Podcast, and we will see you all next time.
Pressing stop now.
You should keep that in the podcast. The pressing stop now. You should keep it in. Pressing stop now.
Two other podcasts. They can be free. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's alright. They won't know that we've done it.
Yeah.
That's ethical, right?
Or you should just clip that. You should take that little audio clip of just you saying pressing stop now and put it into a kind of wherever you do your editing, and then add some effects and mash it up a little bit, maybe put it on repeat, and that could be our jingle. For this, press stop now. Press stop now. Press stop now. Press stop now.
But yeah.
Press stop now. Press stop now. Although that would only make sense if our podcast was called Pressing Stop Now, not Skill Check. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. What are we going to talk? Oh, yeah. Bowser's Fury. So, have you ever done a thing where you kind of struggling with a game, and you looked it up online to see, there must be a cheat or an easy way around the thing you're struggling with?
Yep. I do it all the time. In fact, if I got my phone out and showed you the tabs that are currently open, I have 2 game guides open.
Good. So I did that with Bowser's Fury, right? I've got 12 times left, and this is I think it's meant to be the last level. And now to those words out loud, it's kind of explaining to me
why it's difficult.
Why it's difficult. It's
it's the last level. It's supposed to be.
Lava platform, kind of all twisting around each other, above a bed of lava. And, every now and then you get a flipping angry Bowser appearing from nowhere, and it all getting dark, and I'm whinging, aren't I?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know what.
this is an interesting thing though. This has put me on a track to something else, because do you prefer games to have a difficulty slider or not? So some games are just as difficult as they are, and you bash your head against it until you do or don't beat it. Other games allow you to change the difficulty to a level, kind of maybe even just for a level. Like you can switch. There's a level that's particularly difficult. You can make it easier. Do that level, put it back up to where you were before, and carry on going. What do you prefer?
Yeah.
Would you like a difficulty
like
slider?
each and every time. Every time. In fact, I was thinking the other day that what I like about video games is not the challenge, but the experience.
Interesting. So you're more story. You take story over challenge.
Each and every time.
Yeah.
Each and every time.
Yeah, there are definitely games that I play for a challenge. So I'm like, I'm going to play this on a stupid difficulty because I want it to kick my butt over and over again until I. But we gamers do this, right? No one in the real world cares if you've beaten a hard game on the hardest difficulty. Surprising no one. So I don't know why we do it to ourselves, because ultimately most of the games that are that difficult are usually story-driven games. So they're there primarily for you to experience the story, which you can do on easy. It doesn't change.
And more to the point, why am I spending time thinking about this sort of stuff? You know, why did it occur to me how much I like the experience of a video game compared to the difficulty or the challenge of it? Why? That's not a sensible thing to spend my time thinking about.
Don't get me wrong. I spent a good couple of hours last night thinking about this game that I've been wanting to go back and play through a second time. In my head, I was like, okay, you get a party of 4. You need to cover this element, this element, this element. This game is set up this way, so you need to make sure you have this kind of character, this kind of character, this kind of character, this kind of character. Okay, now I've decided that which character is going to be my character that I create. Which are going to be the kind of story characters you can have in your party that have backstories to them, that have quests associated with them. Which ones of those am I going to pick to come with me? I'm going to pick the ones that I brought with me last time because I like their stories. I'm going to pick the ones that I've never played before to get a different story as part of like this new playthrough. Is that like round and round in circles? Which skills are you going to use? Which ones synergize really well with each other? Well, if this one's going to be a summoner, they're probably going to be in the back of combat. They'd make a really good healer. So I should make my summoner also my healer. I'm going to have a frontline fighter with 2-handed weapons. What kind of magic should it be able to use in case it needs to use magic skills? Oh, pyro makes sense. So fire-based magic makes sense because they're really attack-orientated and scale well with attacking characters. Well, if I'm going to have a very attacking physical character, then I need a defensive physical character. So I should have a sword and a shield guy to kind of defend against the... Okay, well, if I'm going to give him a sword and shield, then what other skills? Polymorph makes sense because polymorph gives you kind of skills that buff kind of what other skills you can do. That's really good. Oh, but now it's my character. What am I going to do in the game? Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, I think actually this game's sometimes tries to overwhelm me with numbers, so it's always good to have a summoner, which I already have, and then a necromancer because they can summon a big giant spider into the field of battle that takes attention away from your characters and onto... This was a whole 2-hour thing last night. And you know what? I don't even play the game or start it again or write any of this down. It was completely meaningless and pointless conversation in my head. I was going on for hours and hours and hours and hours.
But I think this actually speaks into one of the reasons why this, as a podcast, as a skill check, as a thing, it's okay to think about this sort of stuff. It's okay to spend your time working it out. You know, it's like how people who like gardening spend the time working out the best way to plant, I don't know,
whatever it is they're planting, right?
Flowers.
Yeah. By the way, my wife, Bethan, is huge into gardening. A recent passion over the last couple of years. And so she spends an exorbitant amount of time and money doing the garden, which is fine because that's her hobby and her interest. And I like gaming, so I do the same thing about gaming. And you're right. If it's okay for other people that are interested in other things to talk about things like that in that way, then we shouldn't be ashamed of the fact that we spend a good amount of our time outside of gaming time thinking about gaming.
Oh, totally. And I think, you have some, I don't know, is it a culture thing? I don't know. It's okay to be into stuff, you know? It's okay to, I don't like talking about geek culture because actually, you know, who doesn't like Marvel movies these days? It's okay to be into that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, with
If
that
you're
in
into
mind,
if you're into that sort of stuff, if you're into Doctor Who, sci-fi, Star Wars, Marvel, we love you.
we do, and we are glad there are others like us out there that also enjoy it. And we will be finding ways for you guys to be involved more with the things that you enjoy. So do come back, visit the podcast, watch our socials for any information about upcoming things as we ease out of lockdown, hopefully, and everything goes to plan, hopefully. You may see other events and things popping up. And so do keep your eyes and ears and things open and to the ground. And we will try and be great and good at advertising things that will be coming up or happening. So yeah, if you are interested in those things, you are in the right place to find out more about what the YMCA Exeter will be doing in this space moving into the future. With that in mind, guys, this has been the live stream, and we will see you all next time. Yeah. Any final words, Andy, before we end the live stream there? He's going to say no and leave me hanging. Yeah.
I think I think it's because, you know, I kind of feel like I've been slightly TED talky today. It's been good.
Yeah.
I'd like to think.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I'll go off on another tangent, so probably best not to.
Great. Well, this has been us for this week, guys, and we will see you all at the same time next week. Bye, guys.